Leaders in tech are burning out at an absurd rate. Ctrl+Alt+Delete with Lisa Jury is a no BS conversation with one of the top female executives who spent over 25 years in Silicon Valley. If you're suffering from the always-on, never good enough, will replace you today machine called the tech space, this show's for you. Here's Lisa.
Hey everybody, Lisa Dury here, Ctrl+Alt+Delete, and OMG, do I have a guest for you today. I want to tell you a story, and then I'll tell you all about why today matters so much. The story is this, checking emails at midnight, waking up first thing, checking your phone, working on weekends, family being frustrated with you, you're never present, you put the phone down, blah, blah, blah. If you can relate to that, and you can relate to any component of it, whether it's working longer than you want to, feeling like it's not safe to take any downtime, thinking that it's never good enough, which is honestly, don't we know, the land of tech. The show today is for you because I have the most amazing guest and I've personally benefited from talking to her. She's no stranger to me. We've known each other for a few years now, but Lorraine LaPointe is here and she's going to help us with tangible, actionable things right now that you can do to get out of that stuck, never good enough, always on, and get grounded and centered back into your highest and best so you can innovate, you can be creative, you can rest, you can actually, be with your family when you want to and still get kick-ass results at work, be high performing, and be present for the moments that matter. So you can see right away how this plays together. And I'm so excited. So let me give you the formal introduction because, this is important. Lorraine has a lot to offer. But first, Lorraine, let me just say welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And let me tell them all about your wonderfulness, or as I say, your awesomeness. Yay! Okay, so Lorraine is the host of the Edge of Fulfillment radio and talk for TV on the Women for Women network. And she's a mental fitness coach who shows, you're going to love this, Gold Star good girls who've spent their whole life achieving to giving so much to so many for so long that they're now awakening in their second half of life and struggling with questions like, is this all there is? Or what's next for me? And they want to create a life they love without guilt and negative self-talk. And I want to say this, if you're a man listening in, don't stop listening, okay? While Lorraine focuses on women, and we are women talking, you know women, you love women, you manage women, you lead women, perhaps a woman is leading you. Even though we have the Gold Star good girls, I'm here to tell you there are plenty of Gold Star good boys. The perfectionists, the people in your life and in your heart that you love so much that just want to get it all right, always, right? So while that intro is focused on women, if you're a man listening, don't you dare hang up because there's such enlightenment that's about to happen here that you'll get something out of it, and anyone else that you love and lead, you'll be able to share that with them too. So let me just say, Lorraine, I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thank you, Lisa. It's so good to be here too.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump right in if I can. I'd love for you to just tell a story, share your own personal experience, right? Because obviously we're talking about always on, never good enough in tech. How does that tie to the work that you do? And what's your personal experience with burnout or perfectionism, right? Overachieving in general. Tell us a little bit about you.
So I was a former educator and principal, and I, my inner voices are so strong in terms of high achievement and hyper rational and never quite good enough. Like when you said never good enough, absolutely, that's the chirping in the background in your mind. And I was just driven throughout my career to give more, not realizing at that point that if you don't have it in the tank to give, then you're really doing a disservice to everybody around you. And I actually burned out, what we call burned out, or years ago we would term burned out, and I went into a clinical depression. And that lasted about 3 years. And it took a lot of personal struggle to lift myself back to a point where I could start to really take a good look at my life and what were my choices that were driving me into that deep, dark hole. And And since that time, I have been exploring ways of enlightening, and I mean enlightening, my life and those around me. So, you know, for every challenge in our lives, there's good purpose. And that was it's been a launch for me. It was a launching pad. So yeah, I hope that, as you mentioned, I mean, I tend to work with women, but we have gold star good boys out there too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Just as driven, just as, focused on not good enough.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate you sharing your story here. I think that the more we can normalize the conversation around mental health, perfectionism, one of my go-tos that led to burnout was hyperachiever, which I think, in many ways, there is a component of perfectionism in there, and what's underneath it all is not good enough, right? Never good enough. And I think not only did I burn out and I had depression as well, I became clear that I actually was very driven by anxiety, which I think ties to hyperachiever. And this conversation is so important right now with everything that's going on in people's lives. I think we just wanted to lean into this and go there, because if one person hears this and can benefit from it, imagine the ripple effect, right? And, we talk about the oxygen mask, and I am so sick of the oxygen mask, right? As a working mom and executive in tech, putting my oxygen mask on, I never even thought was an option. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know they say you have to do it, but I was like, oh, I'm Superwoman, I'll figure it out, right? I will just my go-to is I have capacity more than others, right? It cracks me up.
There's a huge lie, right?
It's a freaking lie.
I'm a beliefs coach as well. I do clearing of beliefs. And you'll notice that the word belief has the word lie right in it.
I love it. Yes.
And so there's a perfect lie. You've got the capacity. You're stronger than everyone else. You can do it.
It's such bullshit.
And you know what? That is the legacy of being a good girl or a good boy.
Yes. It's like a badge of honor. I would say it with pride.
Yeah.
My husband would be like, I think you need to take a break. No, honey, my capacity is more than most. I'm just like, and I'm going to tell you something. That got rewarded, that belief, that badge of honor, that entire experience as I grew my career, I was the one getting more projects. Now, listen, my boundaries were god awful. And I didn't have my daughter until I was 43. So, who was I not to take on more and travel and be up all hours and whatever, right? Why not? I didn't have kids. My husband was working too. So I was like, yeah, go give everything you have to make this impact, right?
That's those little voices inside.
It's
though.
Totally
That's
the little
the
voices.
Negativity I'm talking about.
Exactly.
They masquerade as friends.
Oh, yes.
But they lie.
Like, they do.
And for my clients, a lot of times they want to know why. And that's the hyper rational side. And I relate to that because I always want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
But we were trained, we were given roles when we were children, and we were trained into some of our patterns. And for the good girl, the gold star good girl or the gold star good boy, the pattern is that if you give enough, you'll get what you need.
Yep. Exactly.
The lie is that if you give too much, you aren't able to receive what you need.
Say it again. Say it again. This is a writer downer. Go ahead.
If you give too much, if you're too busy giving, you're not in any state of mind to receive. So although as children we give and we give, and as adults we give and we give, you often wonder, and this is the group that I work with, is when's it going to be my turn?
Oh my gosh. Right?
And what it is it's always your turn, but you can't receive it. You're not in a state of being, a state of mind in order to receive. And what I was doing when I was in that state is I was telegraphing, that shows you my age, telegraphing the message that don't worry about me, I don't need your help. Don't worry about me. I won't accept what you offer anyway. So
Mhm.
stop offering.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
these are the subtle messages that I was sending. And then, of course, my little negative voices were all going, see, no one wants to help you. You have to have the capacity. You have to extend.
Yeah, you can't rely on anybody. You're all alone, right? Yeah,
see the cycle, big
yeah,
cycle.
yeah.
And
Yes.
it isn't until you learn or give yourself permission to step back and go, enough already.
You know, this is just my eyes. You know, we do video too, right? So people can watch if they want to. So whoever's watching, you're going to see my eye. The energy that's running through me right now is off the charts. I really want to stay here for a second because I think we're onto something that so many people in tech deal with, right? So I want to be rewarded for being brilliant. I'm getting my PhD, you know, electrical engineering example, right? What I find with my clients, the burnout has to really just get to them, and the where the rubber meets the road. You talked about giving and receiving. They go from technical expert, right? Or I'm going to found my next startup, whatever you are in the process. And then all of a sudden people are involved and you're leading organizations and people, right? It's not just technology anymore. And there's no delegation. There's no trust. There's no someone else can do it too. I must still stay in the capacity land of ahead of the curve, the most brilliant person in the room, because that's my badge of honor. And that's exhausting, right? And so the best leaders, the best CEOs, the best frontline people managers are those that get out of their own way and change their story around, I'm brilliant enough technically. Now I'm going to go get brilliant about people because I am about moving this organization forward, and it's not possible to just be me. And that, for me, in my own experience, like when I did take my medical leave for stress, right? Because we didn't know what to call it at the time. Now there's an actual diagnosis of burnout from the World Health Organization. But at the time, my whole team rose. They all jumped in. They took on more. They got more value in their exchanges. They got more opportunity to feel good about their work. And then I came back and was like, pardon me, well, they didn't need me. Well, you know, I was in the way, blah, blah, blah. Now, I worked through all that, of course. But in that moment, when that was the badge of honor, right? And then to have all tides rise, and then you try and insert yourself back in. Think of anything, heart attack, baby, medical leave for stress, doesn't matter. The ship keeps going. And then you have that whole identity crisis of like, what's next? And if you don't leverage that, it's really bad. So what tips do you have, Lorraine? Let's give people something right now they can do, whether they know it or not, because believe me, I never thought I was burning out, right? But what we're saying right now, if it's resonating with you, how can you catch yourself in this lie that we're calling a belief? What are your tips for people to get grounded in that?
So catching yourself is actually easier than it sounds.
Oh, this is good news. Uh-huh.
Anytime you feel uncomfortable, anytime you feel anything that's less than joyful, there's something underneath that's driving it. And that's when you want to give space. So what I suggest to my clients is this. Part of me is feeling, so let's say it's anxious. You mentioned anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me is feeling anxious. Now, when you actually say that to yourself, it gives you the space that it's not all of you.
Yeah, beautiful. Yep.
It's only part of you.
Mm-hmm.
And when we understand that we are not one being, we are a collection of parts, so a collection of pieces based on our experiences and our past connections and everything else, we can realize that the things that we're feeling are temporary, but our feelings are actually there to inform us. So recognizing that part of you is feeling some way, and then if you have the courage to do it, say hello to that part. I sound
so funny. No, I love it so much.
Say hello to that part. That part may have been trying to get your attention for years by being anxious, by generating these negative feelings. say hello to it, because sometimes, holy moly, that part actually goes like, oh, are you talking to me? Like imagine a child locked in a room screaming for attention, and suddenly you open the door and you say hello.
Yeah, I hear so many times, name it to tame it, right? It's what you're talking about. And when I think about folks in tech, right, who are writing this amazing code and rolling out just phenomenal game-changing products every day, it's all energy. Like, we're really talking about energy, guys and gals, right? We're talking about energy. And one thing that I knew when I was going for the bag of chips or the third Diet Coke or the sixth cup of coffee, right? That's energy. Where am I putting my energy, right? I never thought I was depleted energetically. I just thought I'm hungry or I'm tired, and this is just the way of life, right? Because there is addiction in tech. People are addicted to, energy drinks. They're addicted to caffeine. They're addicted to prescription drugs. This happens because this is you're constantly on this treadmill. And I'm thinking about imagining, a CEO saying to themselves, well, hello, anxiety, right? They'd be like, what the hell? But it works. So I'm going to just take my glasses off for a second and tell you, and put them back on now. And I'm going to look right here at everybody and say, don't discount what we're saying because it may not be something you've done before. This actually works. And Lorraine's point is something I had to embrace. It took me a long time to realize that a part of me was anxious, that it wasn't my whole being, and that's about moments that matter too. Thinking about, you can have joy and sorrow at the same time. You are a complex human being and there's lots of energy running through you. So I love this so much. And maybe you won't be at the beginning if you're going to take those 3 deep breaths we all talk about, right? It's not like, well, hello, anxiety, but it might be, I'm just feeling pressured or I'm feeling overwhelmed. And then you get to say, well, no. A part of me is feeling overwhelmed. A part of me is feeling really pressured. And just that part that Lorraine's talking about helps you regain control, right? It helps you get more centered to be aware instead of, my first business coach told me, you have language that is all encompassing and it's not healthy. Everything's broken. Everything needs to be fixed. And she would say, what's really broken? And I'm like, oh, well, what's really broken is our user paper submission application form, not the entire process. Right? It puts it back into perspective. So can you say anything about that, Lorraine? Because I know language is so important. Say more about this. I want to just leverage the heck out of you.
Yeah, well, I want to challenge your listeners, because the more resistance you feel to what we're saying, like, oh, don't be ridiculous, that's silly, that won't work. But the more you resist it, the more likely it is to be exactly what you haven't tried yet and where you won't let yourself go. So notice the resistance, because what we resist persists. We know that. We also know that what we resist intensifies. Kind of like doing physical exercises. The reason we create weights or we lift weights is to increase resistance. And that works the same way mentally and emotionally too. What you resist. The reason you go for that bag of chips or you need that 6 cup of coffee is not because you need chips or coffee. It's because you're avoiding the feelings associated with something that you need to finish. It's not about, it's about finishing these cycles of energy, as you say. All of our emotions, our thoughts run in cycles. And so I invite your listeners and our listeners that the more they think this is ridiculous, the more
I love it.
There's a challenge. The other thing is that some people can't do the talk voice in their head piece very well for some reason, whatever it was that they were suggested when they were little. Maybe it was like, big boys don't do that kind of thing, or that's ridiculous. You can actually connect to the same way physically by doing a few very simple things. And everyone talks about the breathing piece. Your breath is your key. So don't discount that. But for I know some of my clients, there's something that they do called a PQ rep, a positive intelligence rep. which helps break. It's a pattern interrupt. It helps break what they're doing. And one of the ones that they love, and I love, is this one where you put your finger and your thumb together and you just focus until you can feel the ridges in both your finger and your thumb, and then go to your next finger and then to your next. And after a while, you get there really quickly. You can feel it very quickly. But what that does, it takes you out of whatever the negativity is and into the moment where you can access a different part of your brain and give yourself the ability to create that space. Oh, so do the PQ rep, do that piece of it. And then part of me feels anxious. Part of me feels upset. Part of me's worried. You know, part of me's exhausted. You know? And then just give yourself space to see what happens, see what comes to you, and have an open mind and have an open heart.
Yeah, it's and I'm going to just play devil's advocate, right? Because full disclosure, I do PQ reps, so I know them. Okay, so I'm just going to let the audience know that.
Yeah.
I'm too busy, back-to-back meetings, everything. There's no time for this crap, right? This is all just, I don't even have time for feelings, right? Which was my bag of chips and my sodas, my coffees too. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you don't make time, time will make you. Like there's no way to avoid recognizing what your body's telling you. There's just not, right? And I know, I get it, been there, done that, but you can't tell me you can't be on a Zoom call or, you know, presenting to the board or interviewing, you know, three new candidates, and you can't be rubbing your finger together and no one will notice. You want to get grounded and centered. I know some people are like, oh, I don't want them to see me breathing. You know, they're going to be like, what are you doing? And well, guess what? You know, drink a cup of water, drink just a sip of water, rub your fingers a couple times, and you'll notice those ridges. And it's game changer. Like, people want, you know, the pill. Well, this is the pill, people. What Lorraine's telling you right now, it is the pill. And it's the thing that I think worried me so much before I really learned all this for myself was, it's going to take a long time, or what if I look weak, or like, what if people know I'm broken, or whatever, like all this bullshit I would feed myself. Like, instead of being human, right? I'm very robotic about getting it all done. The magic is actually in being human, because guess what? Even you doing this is going to show everyone on your team that it's okay to take a minute for themselves. You're going to be leading by example for a stronger, more resilient, and we all need that, workforce. So you are the person they are looking to for modeling the right behavior in times of stress and uncertainty. The VUCA world we're all in, right? So rub your fingers together and take a deep breath. You can say to your team, you know, a part of me is concerned we're not going to hit the deadline. Imagine what that could open up. And they go, yeah, me too, right? A lot of me feels like we're going to be fine, but there's this nagging part of me that's still in there. Talk about opening up a conversation and putting it out there for everyone to resolve. So I can't reinforce enough what Lorraine's talking about with the fingers. And let's just do it together, Lorraine. Walk us through it right now. So I don't even care if you're driving, you can still do this, right? You got two hands, and typically somebody's got at least two fingers.
It's just simply rubbing the two fingers until you're aware of the ridges of your fingertips. Because, and I have clients who say, well, I can't find the ridges of my fingertips. That's okay. Just trust that they're there. And then keep focusing until you find them. The other thing is with this, I don't have time piece. You do have time. You have to go to the bathroom at least a couple of times a day, right? Hopefully.
Well, honestly, I quit drinking water, so I wouldn't have to go to the bathroom because it took too much time. That's true.
Or clean your teeth, or have a shower, or
grab the bag of chips, whatever.
Grabbing a bag of chips. Find when, picking up the phone. I'm going to give myself 15 seconds between now and when I pick up that phone. It doesn't take, people think that mental fitness takes, like physical fitness, you have to go to a gym, you have to change into your clothes, you have to look good, you have to lift the weight. Mental fitness is different for one reason. It only takes seconds often to change the chemical structure of your brain. But like physical fitness, you have to do it consistently. You have to do it and be aware of it, and recognize its importance. And that's why people talk about breathing. I mean, breathing is one of our easiest things. I mean, I talked about the fingertips with a young guy the other day, and he says, I can tell you that you're used to talking to women because we don't do that in the bathroom. Okay.
I love it.
I know.
I told you we're going to go there. Real talk, hashtag men aren't rubbing their fingers together.
Yeah, so I said, okay, let's go back to the breathing. I said, and if you don't want to breathe, here's another one for you. Another one is visual acuity. You're in a meeting and it's going on and people are talking and everything else. Focus in on looking for something you have never noticed before.
Oh my gosh, totally.
A person's color of their eyes, the shape of their face, the smile, like focus. And if you can't do that piece, then use your other sense, use your ears.
Yep.
Listen for the lisp or the sound of their voice.
Yep.
And find something you like or something important. And these are just really simple little things that you bring yourself back into the moment, because those who are anxious are living in the future and they anticipate terrible outcomes, which is what anxiety is. And those who are depressed are living in the past, wishing they could have changed things. Neither is helpful. I mean, there's times and places, but we have the moment. And so what we're talking about today takes you into the moment and gives you a fighting chance of actually living your life. Because like you said something just now, Lisa, that really triggered me. I mean, don't have time. Do you have time for cancer?
I know.
How about a heart attack?
Yeah.
How about any myriad of diseases or illnesses, the big C19, you have time for any of this stuff? Honestly, well, if you don't make time for the positive, this is the result. Your body will break down and you will be like, I was ill at the beginning of December. I ended up with, I don't know, some sort of stomach flu or something. And I spent 11 days on the couch. Now, if you had said to me in November, can you spend 11 days on the couch?
Right?
I know. No way, no how. Yeah. And as I was laying there, because I couldn't do much else, I suddenly realized my body has been talking to me. I'm tired. I ignored it. I was working till the wee hours of the morning and then getting up and going again. And I thought, my body's taken me out for 11 days.
Yeah. Yep.
I needed it. And that's the price of not listening when you need to.
I had such a hit right now. So in tech, right? Writing code, rolling out products, artificial intelligence, machine learning, everything in between. I can throw you every buzzword, okay? Our bodies, our existence as a human being on this planet, we are basically a computer. If you really look at it, right? You look at, energy and meridians, and you take a look at all of the knowing and the brilliance in each of our organs and what they do and how they function. So instead of this feeling like a woo-woo conversation, which I get accused of sometimes, right? I want to bring it into the looking at it just as if you were writing code for the next thing, right? So when you have power leakage or the battery burns up, right? You go and look at what's going on. You will assess the code and look for the bugs, right? Sometimes you call it a feature. Well, listen, being tired is not a feature. And being tired is not a bug. Like, that is a power leakage, okay? So when you really, I just really want to bring it back into tech land for a second, so it really settles for people. And I know this because I've been through it myself. I'm not sitting here on a soapbox, you should do it this way. Like, I've got the t-shirt. I had chronic bronchitis. Okay, I had chronic bronchitis to the point where I was on every type of antibiotic under the sun, and I didn't have time to be sick. And what happened was I ended up, I think it was about 3 months of chronic bronchitis, and everyone around me was like, get out of here. All you do is cough. You're disrupting us. And people are worried. And I'm like, I got it. I'm strong, right? Well, I pushed my doctor, and my doctor gave in at the time. He gave me an antibiotic without a conversation. And what happened is I had an allergic reaction to the antibiotic. And it's the antibiotic that for some people, your ligaments tear. Like this is a real deal. Okay. What happened for me is I was getting shooting pain up my arm, radiating into my neck. And I'm thinking, I'm having a heart attack. I got to get to the emergency room. Did I have time for the emergency room? Check this out. Presentation the next day. Took my laptop, colleague drove me to the emergency room. While I'm waiting for them to rule out the heart attack, we got the PowerPoint up. We're working on the slides. I have a picture of it because I was so proud to say to my boss, this is how dedicated I am. Even in the emergency room, I am working on that. I will not let you down. Okay. That's insanity. My body had been telling me for months. So this whole, you don't have time. Guess what? Your priorities are jacked. I mean, I'm saying that for myself, like, and so many people tried to tell me, so many people tried to, get me to slow down. And that's who I want to talk to today. Because if you're already like, oh yeah, I can do that rep, or I can do the breathing or whatever, amen, and go do it. But for those of you that are still like, I don't need this, that's for other people. Take it from me. Take it from me. You don't want to be in the emergency room thinking you're having a heart attack, worried about the PowerPoint. You have to figure out how to structure your org and manage your time and delegate and have a backup plan so that you are not like me, who was everything rests on me. I could have easily stayed home for a couple of days, delegated that presentation to someone on my team and given them the opportunity for the visibility. I could have coached from the couch. Do you know? So the world is not depending on you in tech. You are thinking that's the lie you're telling yourself, is no one else can get it done because you're replaceable, right? But your body's not. So go figure out, what's the legacy you want to leave? What do you want on your tombstone? And how do you want to be in these moments that matter? That's what this is about. And so back to you, Lorraine, off my soapbox of like my emergency room visit, got to get the PowerPoint done, because I know there's people thinking that right now. I know there are people in those situations. And I don't want this to feel so big that it's not actionable.
Well,
right. So
yeah,
keep going. Talk to me. Mm-hmm.
Two things came to mind as you were speaking, and I love your soapbox, by the way.
I'm on a mission. Like, I don't want anybody else to go through this.
Yeah. Two things came to mind. People say people aren't like computers. Well, who designed the computers?
I know.
Computers are designed based on how we function.
Yes.
So is that a surprise? Like, who created the damn things? I mean, I just had to smile when I heard that. The other thing is, when I was a principal and I was running a school, and it was a very high needs school, and I had 50,000 things going on at the same time, and everybody depending on me. I actually ended up not being well at school, and I ended up in the hospital, and within 24 hours, I was replaced in that school. That's how important I was. Mm-hmm. Now, did the person do all the things that I did? No. Did the school continue to function? Yes. And as you pointed out, did my staff have an opportunity to step up and shine? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I was out for almost 2 weeks. And when I got back, some of the things that were implemented were absolutely amazing. I would never have thought about it. And there were a couple of things that they had tried that didn't work out so well. But from those experiences, we learned how to improve. So, and was I not important? No, the staff were very happy that I was back, and so were the kids. Mm-hmm. But that's how easily you can be replaced.
Absolutely. So, yes.
The only place you can't be easily replaced is your family. You can't be replaced. There's no mom that can replace you. There's no dad that can replace you. The end of your life, your boss, your coworkers are all going to say, oh, he was such a great guy, or she was such a great girl, on to the next.
I know.
But your family won't. So really, I'm offering an opportunity here. Number one, you are your priority. And if you're at the bottom of your list, you're in the wrong place. And number two, your family is your priority. Because there's not another you. So it's your choice. Like, I mean, we put so much into our work to get recognition, but are you able to receive that recognition?
Yes, let's go there. We're going right there, my friend. I almost called you Toots. And my grandmother's with me right now. Come on, Toots. I love my
I
grandmother.
love that.
I see you upstairs. Oh, so much. Yeah, she said Toots. And that's when I say Toots, I'm like in the powerful female space right now, right?
Yeah.
So receive.
So when we give, the ideal model, I offer a model to my clients that talks about our mental health, me, what I do, what I give, and what I receive. And the people I work with are the gold star, good girls, we're good boys. And typically we have a model where the giving is huge and the boundaries of giving are actually very weak. And so our giving leaks out all over the place. We jump every time someone asks us to do a favor for them. We see every opportunity to give. But when you look at the model, what we don't have is we have solid brick walls around our receiving. And that's what we most want to feed who we are, is to be able to receive. So, you know, I build the walls around the giving, or not the walls. I say walls or boundaries, but I think of myself as a cell, you know, semi-permeable boundary. I let in what I choose to, and I let out what I choose to. And then I can then open myself up to receiving, because it's in the receiving that our battery gets regenerated. So you're talking about coding. I mean, you need input.
Absolutely.
If it's all output, eventually, you know, you're useless. You need input.
Yeah. So let's think about this. So I'm senior vice president of sales, right? Go, driven. And I work with these people all the time, right? So this is almost a leading question. Only as good as the next sale, only as good as the quota at the time. How does someone in that kind of leadership role demonstrate and model receiving?
So the first question I ask is, who told you? Who made that rule? You're only so good as. Who made the rule?
Say more.
Because there's the lie in the belief. You've set your identity on something that you don't control. You don't know when the next sale is coming. You can't make people buy. And the fact that they buy something or that you've sold something really is not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on them and what they need. Right?
That's like a mic drop. Yeah.
When you're selling something, it's not about whether they're buying you. They are buying you, but they're buying based on what they need. So it's about them.
Yes. And that's honestly the sales leaders I work with. We're constantly focusing on, service, right? Value add, trusted advisor, long-term relationships. And I think where they get stuck, and this is what I see in coaching them myself too, I haven't ever looked at it the way you just said it, but I think I'm getting a nugget here that's going to be helpful in some of the conversations I have. And that is, the decision to purchase or not is not a reflection of your worth. It's not even about you. And that in itself can take some of that anxiety down around only as good as the next sale, right? Really, if you take the time and you're really strategic about your potential customer base and your approach with each one of these and bring your best self forward, receiving might look like reassigning a territory, renegotiating a deadline, bundling a different service or package where you do have control over what gets offered. Not necessarily, well, damn, we didn't make the number. What are you doing on the runway up to that? And then how creative are you being in that space where you do have control? Because the receiving, being creative, I think is an act of receiving, because you're actually being more innovative and creative and not just stuck in output only. Yeah. And I'm not even sure if I'm making sense right now. So I'm going to shut up and just let you take that because it's your world. But that's what showed up for me when you were talking.
No, you got it. I mean, okay. The challenge I would give to those that are listening is think about how you define yourself. Are you defining yourself based on the success or lack of success of what you consider success? that you have no control over. And then if you are, like the next sale, and then if you are, is there any wonder that you're anxious, nervous, worried, concerned? The energy output is huge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you start
Yep.
to recognize that your self-worth and who you are has nothing to do with the results of, you know, a spreadsheet or an increase in sales or whatever else. You can have some influence over it. I'm not saying you don't have any influence over
Yeah.
it, but it doesn't define who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hearing you say put it into perspective.
Yeah, step
Yeah.
back and give yourself that space. Part of me thinks that my self-worth is based on that spreadsheet number. How interesting. What does that part of me, why is that part of me so tuned into that? What does that part of me really need?
Yeah.
Does it
Yep.
need more recognition from myself? Does it need to be understood and to give him permission that that's not the truth about who I am?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all this, like I know that some people are going to say, oh, this is so woo-woo.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Yeah, you don't think coding is woo-woo?
I know.
Just ask somebody who doesn't understand coding.
Yeah.
It's freaking magic.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, it's science. There is science to this. And that's the thing that I always, when I'm coaching and working with the executives, I'm always pulling out all my, you know, my data to like give them science, because then, okay, it's proven, right? So there's so much here. We're not even going to like roll up. Maybe in the show notes, I can put some statistics for people, right? But when you just think about your brain and how it works, and you think about how you were raised and what messages you got, and you think about generational messages that get brought forward, right? And then you think about, why did you get into tech in the first place? Like, what feeling were you chasing? Because I'm of the belief that your goals are based on feelings you're looking for, right? So if your goal is to have your startup, what is that going to feel like when you do it? You know, pride, innovative, brilliant, like whatever you're chasing. If you're not really clear on that, you're going to put yourself in harm's way, because you're not going to be listening to the messages. So fundamentally, whether or not you buy into what we're calling woo-woo right now, this is based in science. It's based in, you know, positive psychology. It's based in, I had another word that I was going to throw at you and impress you with my big words. It was science and positive psychology.
It's neuroscience.
Thank you. Hello, neuroscience, right? This is what I'm talking about when I think about the brain. So the last thing that I want to touch on here, and we can use me as the guinea pig, right? Because it's safe for people. There is a prevalent belief or roadblocker for parts of people, and that is the hyperachiever. And I know that in the programs that you run, in the program that I went through, I identified hyperachiever as almost my the kryptonite, right? If I'm Superman, the kryptonite, hyperachiever, while I took it as a badge of honor and showed up that way, that was actually, you know, what caused me to fall and of course learn. And I know I'm not alone in tech in hyperachiever land. So can we go there? I'd love to go there with you, Lorraine, and just talk about, you know, what hyperachiever looks like, how it shows up, and then how to really not manage, but go from hyperachiever into a much more aware, innovative, creative, life-giving energy. Because hyperachiever, I believe, is life-taking. I don't find it innovative or creative at the least.
Yeah, and I can share that my profile, and it's called a saboteur assessment through positive intelligence, but my profile is actually something called restlessness mixed with hyperachiever.
Okay.
So hyperachiever is the part of you that is driven to do more, better, higher, faster. It's that if I'm the best, I will be noticed and people will love me.
Yep.
And that's what I'm talking about, having no boundaries and not being able to receive, because people might love you anyway, and they will love you anyway, but you can't receive it. So you have to feel like you have to do more and more and more. That's your hyperachiever. And then restless is the part that is the highly distractible piece. So eat a bag of chips, you'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Drink another coffee, have another Red Bull, you'll have more energy. The restlessness is what the just high distractibility. The people say, oh, I've got ADHD. No, you don't. You have a hyper restless part. You know, that's the part that keeps you moving from one thing to another, to another, to another, and never finding rest. Restlessness.
Yeah.
Finding the rest that will be able to give you a breath, give you the space, give you the clarity that you're seeking to know the best next step. Because while restless is kicking in with hyperachievement, they're like accomplices, right? They're like
totally.
While it's kicking in with hyperachievement, you don't know what the next best step is. You think you do, and you jump to it, you jump and you jump and you jump, but you really haven't given yourself any time and space to consider. And
one of the things that I'm thinking about with hyperachiever, and I hadn't thought about restlessness, so I think it's a very valid point what you're saying. When I look at, you know, the group of people that I'm coaching, they all care. They're good people. They are really freaking brilliant. And the reason that I love coaching so much is I have so much business background. I can see through the noise, and then we will segment. Okay, what are the beliefs you're holding? What are the actions you're taking? You know, it's very. I'm not a therapist. Like, I'm not here to look at, you know, your family of origin stuff, right? But I am here to look at how you can get high performance. And then usually the leader is the key, right? It's how you show up and how you manage yourself so others can see what's expected, right? It's all the unspoken things. Hyperachiever, I think, is really easy to take advantage of. And when I look at people who get promoted and people who take on more and people who grow their career fast, I do see a pull through of hyperachiever. And I also know that hyperachievers love other hyperachievers. And so when they're hiring and they're looking at org structures and all that, it's like, oh, how many hyperachievers can I find? They're never talking like this, right? A players, they're called A players, right? How many of those can we put on this team so we can really make it happen? And when you surround hyperachievers, you know, there's like group think, group dynamic, group everything. It's kind of out of this world when you watch it. And I see amazing things happen in the beginning. And then over time, people are like, well, why did that business unit not make their number? And why is this product failing all of a sudden? They were so great. Well, when you're in hyperachiever land, it's not sustainable.
yeah.
And so one of the things I would love to know is, even if you're not going to call yourself hyperachiever, you're just, you know, an A player, which is what they call themselves, or high potential. Let me tell you your high potential, because then you're going to try even harder to fulfill your potential. What if you're just freaking awesome right now, but high potential? Oh, you're in the hypo program. It's a whole thing. Okay. When is good enough good enough? How can a hyperachiever really, or an A player or hypo, bring their best self forward, but also rest and regenerate so that they can be a life-giving force for the team and the company and themselves? What's your advice to people in that space?
Well, we've already told them the answer to this earlier in the show.
Okay, go.
If they were paying attention.
I love it.
Yeah, it is that willingness to give yourself space. Part of you is a hyperachiever. But that's not all of you. And hyperachiever will drive you. It's that drive, that constant drive. And you said something really important. When you've got a team together, one of the worst things that you can do as a leader is to replicate yourself 100 times on that team.
Right. Amen.
Because otherwise you just get mini-me's, which, as you said, mini-me's work out really well until the me kind of drops, and then the mini-me's don't do well at all. Yep. So as a leader, when I was a principal, I purposefully interviewed people with a team, and on the team of interviewees, I put people who were not like me, because I wanted to hire a variety of types of personalities and that kind of thing, because that's where the strength comes from. Yeah. You know, but it's in that space. If you can't give yourself that space, that speaks really loudly about what's going on for you. and who you think you are, you know?
Yeah.
So I would say that, you know, the answer to your question about what to do with hyperachiever, give it permission not to do things for a while. Give yourself permission, even if it's just for a few minutes. I'm just going to disconnect and not do something for a while. It will shock your system. It'll be so unfamiliar and so uncomfortable and totally weird. But that's what you're looking for growth. If you keep in your comfort zone, you'll just keep getting what you've always got. You have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone in order to get something new. And so step into what's unfamiliar, just like hire some unfamiliar people, you know?
Yeah. And I will say this too with, I'm just going to lean into what Lorraine's saying. So for me in my career, and honestly, why I'm doing what I'm doing, it's why the show exists. The thing for me, the big tell that if I look back throughout my career, the big tell for me was when my resentment turned into my behavior. So for instance, you know, I was fine taking on the project, blah, blah, blah. But then I gave up 6 weekends, like very early in my career. And they came to me and said, well, we're going to give you a bonus. We're going to give you, as a bonus, like a weekend away. And I remember, and I was a very junior person at the time, started to cry and said, I'll never be able to use that time. I give all my weekends to you guys. And at that point, that was a tremendous opportunity for that leader to say, oh, well, then we have a problem. You should not be giving all your weekends to us. That's not what happened, by the way. Right? Oh, well, then we'll just give you money. Right? And so there's compelling events throughout someone's career that reinforces this. There's compelling events throughout one's career that if you're not paying attention to it, you start to think, well, this is just the way it is. And I'm here to tell you, and I'm on a mission to change the leadership in tech to make it so that you don't have to work every weekend. You can have a flexible environment. You can be innovative and life-giving to what's going on and rest. And I know that this is an uphill battle, and I'm so grateful for our time today, Lorraine. And I just want to say resentment, I'm going to say it 7 times, is a tell. Anger and resentment. You know, if you've got road rage and you're pissed off and here's another freaking meeting I got to go to and it's a waste of my time. Why are you going to that meeting? You know, like you have way more control than you're allowing yourself. And the boundaries have been so blurred that resentment shows up. And that's a tell. So if there's nothing else I can say today, when we've said so much, when a part of you feels resentment, take your 3 deep breaths, put your fingers up, go find the ridges, and then think about what part am I contributing to this? Because all you can control is you. That's all you can control. Your choices, how you show up, your behavior. And I'm so grateful for this conversation today, Lorraine. It is so needed. And I want to just give a shout out to principals everywhere and teachers everywhere and parents who are trying to navigate parenting and working, leaders who are trying to come up with the next best whatever, right? We're all in this together. But the pull through for all of us is humanity. We are all human beings on this planet with, as far as I know, one go around right now, right? This is your life right now. I mean, listen, I can get into a whole esoteric thing because I got all kinds of beliefs. But for what we know right now, today is the day you have. Today is the day you have. So how can you be your best today and make sure you're taking care of yourself and you don't have the power leakage? If you're trying to prevent that in your codes and your products, make sure you're preventing that in yourself. Manage that. And so, Lorraine, let me ask you this, because that's like a deep thing. I want to lift it up a bit. I'm also building a playlist. So one of the things I want to give people is, just like you talked about the 5 senses, right? One of the things I know is music and movement can really help when you're feeling that way. So you do your 3, you find your ridges, and then maybe you shake it off, right? Or whatever. But oh my gosh, tell me a song that's Lorraine's go-to that helps you elevate and get out of your own funk when you're like, oh crap, a part of me is resentful. A part of me is given too much. A part of me, like, how do you, from a musical standpoint, help yourself?
Well, I solved that problem because my partner is also a DJ.
So you're just like, hit it, babe.
So I say, honey, go find me one of those songs I like.
I love it. That's brilliant.
But the one that is a go-to for me is that song, The Stray Cats.
Yeah.
It's got a really good little bouncy tune.
I can see you going. right?
And yeah,
Yes.
and I love the Stray Cats.
I
So the
love
Stray
this
Cats
so
song,
much.
yeah, and so
Thank you.
that would be mine.
Yeah, I
But
love it. I love it. I love it. And you guys, you're just watching Lorraine. So for those of you listening, Lorraine started bebopping. She started, her shoulders were moving, her head was going, her hands were
all I
up.
have to do is think about it.
Exactly. And that's my point. So that's my point. I bet everybody right now either has Stray Cats in their head or something similar, because when you're here, we're talking about some deep stuff. We're talking about mental fitness, people. You got to figure out how to get back into your body. And one way I know for sure is music. One way I know for sure. So visualize that, move your shoulders. You know, I start all my Zoom meetings, I have people shake their hands, right? Just get back in your body. I love this so much. And so Lorraine, how can people, if they want to know more, I mean, you do so much. How can people find you, and what's the easiest way for them to, you know, get some more of your awesomeness?
They can find me at lorrainelapointe.ca.
Okay.
Because I'm Canadian.
Yep.
And the other way they can find me if they want mental fitness is lorraine.gives/mental fitness. And it gives you
Lorraine.gives/mental fitness.
mental fitness.
Okay.
And that gives a little bit more information. It gives them an opportunity. They can reach out and talk to me. They can.
Awesome. Yeah. And how about your show? Because I know you host a show. So let's talk about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I know, right?
I almost forgot about my show.
It's
So
because
my
it's just
show-
in you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. My
Of
show is
course.
called Midlife Awakening at the Edge of Fulfillment. It's on every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time
Okay.
on the Women for Women Network. That's w4wn.com. But the easiest way to access the show is actually just go to my business page on Facebook, which is Head Heart Synergy. Because
Okay.
that's what I believe that we all need is some
Yep.
head heart synergy. And I always broadcast live on there. So if 10 a.m. Eastern time is not convenient for you, you can pick up the show anytime you like.
Oh, that's
at
awesome.
Head Heart Synergy.
Yeah. And you know, it's so funny. Head heart synergy, because I believe I always say head and heart alignment. We were saying the same thing, right? We're saying,
Exactly.
hello, people, the same thing. And I
Imagine.
believe the key to humanity elevating itself through business is unlocking heads and hearts.
Yeah.
We have
That's
to.
exactly why I called my business Head Heart Synergy.
Yep.
When your head is aligned with your heart, your life is synergistic. It flows with grace and ease. And how many of us don't want grace and ease in our life?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll just summarize this, and we've talked about a lot. If I were to take my key takeaways, number one is there is a process to build your mental fitness.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't require going to a gym. You can do it wherever you are. There are things you can do right now to help yourself, whether it's drink the water, take the breaths, rub your fingers together, focus on something new, you know, be present in that moment to get out of the part of you that's feeling anxious, overwhelmed, resentful, maxed out, whatever. I also heard loud and clear that looking at ourselves through the lens of multifaceted, really taking a look at the fact that we are humans in this experience, and that if we have this all or nothing thinking that I used to suffer from, there's a tell in that. And I think fundamentally the pull through for me, and I'll have you add if I missed anything, so I want to make sure we have it. The pull through for me is that you have one life, and your body, excuse me, your body is telling you something. And the faster you learn to listen to your body, the more innovative, more creative, more productive, more joyful, more connected you will be. And the more you ignore that, the opposite is what's down the pipeline for you. And it's really about a choice of really paying attention, right? And we all have the same amount of time in the day. That's the other thing, the great equalizer.
Yeah, that's a beautiful summary, Lisa. And the only thing I would say to those who are more cerebral, more rational among us, if all of that stuff is too much for you, ask yourself one simple question and ask it often. Who made that rule?
I love it. Who made that rule?
Who made that rule? I have to go to this rotten meeting. I have to sit in it. Who made that rule?
Yep.
You are totally in control. Even if you don't believe it, you are totally in control of every moment of your life. You are at choice. Who made that rule?
I'm just going to leave it there. Mic drop. Thank you so much, Lorraine. It's just been such a joy having you. And you guys check her out. Go to her Facebook page, Head Heart Synergy. Check out Lorraine.gives / did I get it right?
Lorraine.gives/mental fitness.
Mental fitness. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or-
And LorraineLaPointe.ca. Correct?
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Check her out, you guys. You won't be disappointed. Lorraine's amazing. Thank you for making the time, Lorraine. It's an honor to know you and share our time together. It means a lot, and I'm really grateful for our time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and making this available, Lisa. And I just love the work that you do. You are so
thank you.
inspiring.
Oh, as are you, my friend. This is a love fest, people. Make sure you surround yourself with people that make you think and feel. And Lorraine does both. Yeah. All right, everybody, take good care. Those moments matter. Make it happen.
That was great content, but let's be honest. If you don't get the support you need and start making changes in your life and work as a leader in tech, you can expect regret and burnout in the near future. Lisa can help you get kick-ass results at work without burning out, so you can be present for the moments that matter to you and your loved ones. Take your first step at rebootwithlisa.com.